السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. Welcome everyone to Al-Wali's weekend broadcast. I hope everyone is enjoying the daily nightly reminders. And one thing I wanted to talk about briefly today was one of the great empowering benefits and features of the fasting of Ramadan, which gives us something almost like a superpower that we can continue after the month is over, right? Inshallah, if we observe the month properly, then that is a feature, it is a characteristic that is built within Siyam, which is the ability to sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, Ramadan is about abstention, right? It's not doing, it's not eating or drinking in the daylight hours. So the more conscious we become of this aspect of sacrifice in the month of Ramadan, the more we will be able to sacrifice once the month of Ramadan is over. So that's actually one of the great lessons that we are supposed to be learning, along with, of course, becoming muttaqi, right? Becoming people who have consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who have the great quality of taqwa, which is the purpose of the fast of Ramadan. That is definitely there. And so we want to develop ourselves further and understand how really to attain that taqwa and how to get more out of our fasting. And that is becoming sensitive to and alert to this requirement of the fast. It cannot be completed without giving up, without sacrificing. So what Ramadan is doing, every single day in Ramadan, we are honing our ability to get more done, right? With less food, hopefully, or with less sleep, perhaps, right? We are trying to be more spiritually focused without the need to be entertained as much as we're used to entertaining ourselves and cater us, right? Outside of Ramadan. Our need to out, relax, decreased in Ramadan. How is this? It's the lessened physical ties. We are physically to our need, the we are unable to ascend. The less done we are physically desires, we become free to spirit ascend. The most worshipful creatures, the nearest to Allah Ta'ala, of course, angels who don't need to or drink, are totally free from such preoccupations and completely devoted to worship, to glorification. So Ramadan gives us this beautiful opportunity to actually mimic the angels in their state of abstention. And so hopefully engage in more of what the angels do all the time. So it's actually a chance to become more stronger. What Ramadan is teaching us, the fast is teaching us, is that there is something much more important than our desires, needs, etc. And physically, Ramadan teaches us actually something even more and drink to survive, and that is your need. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't have water, the what happens is that we're alive. But if we attend to our spiritual needs, if we become sensitive to our need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that one can potentially live hereafter, right? And that, infinitely more than just one in this world. So how do we become spiritually sensitive to our greatest need, which is the need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's through sacrificing our physical desires. This is how we reach elevation. And to ideally be able to do this willingly and joyfully, this is what brings true strength. This is what gives birth to true greater iman, right? If you look at the Quran, and when it talks about the early Muslims, those that believed in a time when it meant persecution, those who did the hijrah, which was such, subhanAllah, such an amazing manifestation of the truth of their iman, leaving everything they had known for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine your whole life, wherever you grew up, you spend your childhood there, you know its streets and its alleys, you're familiar with the food and the faces. You always, feel deeply attached to that place that you call home. And one day you have to give that up. And for many of the muhajirin, those early Muslims who did the hijrah, some of them had to leave their direct family members, their parents or their spouse even, or children who, were still mushrikeen, or they couldn't take all their family with them for whatever reason, nor could they take their property, right, with them. It was not physically possible to do so. And I was thinking about this, how, subhanAllah, sometimes we take the hijrah as just a historical event. We take it for granted as something that we just start, our Islamic calendar by. But for the people who did it, for some of them, this may have been the most difficult thing that they had to do up to that point, right? It was a place that was most beloved to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a narration of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, where the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about Mecca, how sweet of a land you are and how dear you are to me. And if it were not that my people expelled me from you, I would not have lived in any other than you. So hijrah is not just a historical event, but it is one of the greatest moments of sacrifice by which the early Muslims proved their loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In reality, it was a heart-wrenching demonstration of love and loyalty to the supreme beloved of one's heart, which dwarfs all other loves, right? So how did they attain the ranks that they attained, subhanAllah? They believed, they did the hijrah, and then they struggled with their lives and their wealth, right? These are the descriptions we find of them in the Quran. As we have in Surah At-Tawbah, verse 111, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. Indeed, we have bought, Allah is referring, indeed, Allah has bought from the believers their selves and their wealth in exchange for paradise. SubhanAllah, this is such a beautiful ayah, right? The believers who exerted themselves and their wealth, they did not have much wealth, right? We know the early Muslims, the muhajirin, we know how scantily equipped they were for the first battle of Badr that they went into against the mushrikeen, right? We just had the anniversary of Badr on Thursday, the 17th of Ramadan, right? They were financially extremely weak. They didn't have much wealth. Most of it, they had to leave in Mecca. They could not carry it with them, nor retrieve it from there. But they're described as those who exerted themselves. Jahadu bi amwalihim wa anfusihim, right? This is a description that we find over and over in the Quran, that they exerted themselves in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with their wealth and with their lives. So how did they do this? They didn't have much, but whatever they had, they were willing to give it up, including their own selves, right? Not just their wealth, but they were able to give up, to sacrifice a part of their own selves, subhanAllah. So this is the golden lesson for us. It's never about how much you have. It's about how much of whatever you have are you willing to give up for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The greater our ability to give up, the more our value goes up with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves كَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the muhsineen, those that are at a station of ihsan, one of their qualities we learn from Surah Al Imran is that they take in or absorb. What do they absorb? Their incredible moments of wrath for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the most difficult things to do is to control and restrain yourself in moments of intense anger, and not to act on that anger, to say anything you're going to regret a minute later, right? But to do that consciously for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that requires giving up your anger for for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or absorbing it and giving up that part of yourself that wants to, aggressively, wildly react in that moment, right? So that is an example of giving up a part of yourself, what yourself wants to do, whatever your nafs wants to do. When you don't do it, you're giving up that part of the nafs, and therefore you are making the spirit stronger. The ruh is becoming stronger, and you're gaining control over that wild animal called the nafs, right? So striving and struggling as we, approach these last 10 days of Ramadan, this is like the best advice that we can remind ourselves with, right? These 10 nights, what we get out of them, inshallah, by Allah's tawfiq, is going to be closely linked to how much we're able to sacrifice and give up of ourselves, how much focus and concentration we are able to exert, how tolerant and patient we can be with people around us who may constantly be challenging our patience, right? And how much we can financially contribute. Again, it doesn't have to do with how much you give, but how much you can give from whatever you have, and how sincere that giving is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how generous we are with whatever we have, whether it is our time or our wealth or our emotions, whatever we are doing, inshallah, and planning for these next 10 nights. Let us do it with sincerity. Let us do it with all of our hearts. Let us restrain ourselves and not waste our time in these last 10 precious nights that are beginning tomorrow night with the adhan of Maghrib, which marks the coming in of the last 10 nights. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand the preciousness of this time, and allow us and give us the tawfiq and ability to exert ourselves in a way that He'll be pleased with. سبحانك وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.